Welcome to the explainer. So, I want you to picture something for a second. Imagine a dimly lit server room. Somewhere out there right now, a vital, aging database is quietly humming along, running an entire company. We're talking thousands of records, invoices, customer details, absolutely critical business contracts. It's literally the lifeblood of the organization. But there's a huge catch. It's running on software that is 4 major versions behind. Nobody wants to touch it because it's fragile, yet absolutely everybody depends on it every single day. Well, today we're setting the stage for a high-stakes expedition. We're going to unpack the true story of how one of these aging databases made the incredibly perilous journey from Odoo 14 all the way up to Odoo 17 completely intact without losing a single record. Yep, we are talking about a 10-year-old database. Just think about how much business history is wrapped up in a full decade of data. When software gets that old, upgrading isn't just clicking a shiny update button. It's a massive, grueling climb up a steep mountain. We're going to break down exactly how to conquer this climb, scale to peak to Odoo 17, and keep a whole decade of company history perfectly safe. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our tactical map for the journey. First, the staircase strategy. Second, lighting your backpack. Third, disarming the weapon. Fourth, porting to version 17. Fifth, sweeping out ghosts. And we'll wrap up with number 6, the rules of the climb. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, the staircase strategy. And the golden rule here, no elevator exists. You see, you cannot just press a button and instantly teleport your data from version 14 to version 17. You have to take the stairs. The community framework used for this, OpenUpgrade, hops exactly one major version at a time. So step 1 is 14 to 15, step 2 is 15 to 16. But look very closely at this staircase because there is a major twist at step 3. Your custom code absolutely must be fully rewritten for version 17 syntax before you make that final jump to 17. Why? Because version 17 aggressively hard rejects old syntax that versions 15 and 16 would just happily ignore. The entire success of the migration literally turns on this specific step. Moving right along to section 2, lighten your backpack. You've got to audit before moving. Just like actual mountaineering, the smaller your load, the safer your climb. And this brilliantly illustrates our first hard lesson. On the left, the file folder promised 33 custom modules, but on the right, the database itself revealed that only 23 of those modules were actually installed. The rest were just old experiments and abandoned ideas. The folder lies, but the database tells the truth. We drop that dead weight immediately. Doing that saves days of pointless porting work. But we have to go even further. Look at this rule. Classify by row counts, not by the module's name. You might have modules named Heavy Budget System or Core Engine that sound incredibly massive, but when you query their actual tables, they're completely empty. Out of 20 modules that look super important, maybe only one holds actual live contracts. You do not want to carry 20 empty stage prop modules up the stairs. You uninstall the empty ones, safely, because uninstalling doesn't drop the tables, and you carry just that single heavy module up. You can always reinstall the rest fresh once you hit the summit. Now for section 3, disarming the weapon. It is time to neutralize production. This is the absolute critical setup and safety protocol phase. You have to understand that a production database copy is essentially a loaded weapon. It contains real customer emails, live API integrations, and scheduled background jobs that send out actual invoices. If you just boot up an unsealed copy of this database on your test machine, it might suddenly wake up and start messaging real customers with duplicate invoices or bizarre testing errors. You absolutely must neutralize it with a couple lines of SQL to silence every cron job and cut every single mail wire before it ever boots. Once the weapon is fully disarmed, you do one more vital thing. Record your baseline row counts. You query the database and write down the exact number of rows in your business tables. Why? Because this little list becomes your ultimate, undeniable proof of zero data loss at the very end of your journey. With the database safe and counted, the climb actually begins. And honestly, the climb is a very exact, repetitive routine. For each hop, you load OpenUpgrade, grab the log, and scan it for errors, confirm the base version actually changed, and then recount those business tables. Hop 1. Maybe you get one small error. Hop 2. 0 errors. When your backpack is light because you dropped all that dead weight, this climb becomes incredibly boring. And let me tell you, in the world of database migrations, boring is the most beautiful word there is. All right, we've reached section 4, porting to version 17. Time to learn a new language. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this is where we step into the most dangerous phase of the expedition. It is full of silent traps. Notice how aggressively Odoo 17 rejects the past. Old syntaxes like attrs and states are hard rejected. They have to become plain Python expressions. But look at the Python side at the bottom. Name_get is replaced by _compute display name. If you leave the old nameGet method in your code, version 17 won't crash. It won't give you a warning. It will simply ignore it and do absolutely nothing. Silence in a migration is the ultimate villain. Which leads us straight into the biggest trap on the entire internet. If you search online, half the forums and AI bots will tell you, yes, you must rename the tree tag to list for Odoo 17. Guys, do not do it. If you change it, every single view in your database will break. That rename actually belongs to Odoo 18. In 17, tree stays tree. You can never blindly trust internet lore. You must always verify by looking at the actual source code of the version you're targeting. And right alongside that is the cron trap. Common wisdom repeatedly claims the number call field was removed in 17. Nope, it wasn't. It is very much alive in 17.0. If you follow bad internet advice and delete number call from your scheduled jobs, the system defaults to running the job exactly once, and then it turns itself off permanently. No error message, no log entry, just a silent failure, and weeks later, someone is panicking, asking why customer contracts have mysteriously stopped expiring. Again, trust the source code. Surviving the code port brings us to section 5, sweeping out ghosts. Let's clear out those old views and menus. This is the absolutely critical cleanup phase right before the final installation. Remember those stage prop modules we uninstalled back in phase 1? Well, they left ghosts behind. Hundreds of old views and menus are still lurking in the database, still active, and still written in version 14's dead language. Flipping the state to uninstalled didn't actually delete them. The moment one of those ghost views touches a modern version 17 screen during rendering, everything shatters. You must sweep them all out using SQL before reinstalling. The fresh install will recreate exactly what it needs cleanly. Once the ghosts are swept, you install your code and enter the fix loop. It's a strict tactical loop for squashing bugs. You run the install, read only the very first error in the log, ignore all the cascade noise that follows it, fix that single issue, and run it again. You repeat this loop until the log says 0 errors. Not mostly fine, not just a few warnings. The goal here is absolute 0. And that brings us to the summit. Section 6, Rules of the Climb. Let's look at our final takeaways. So, the crucial point is right here. Remember that baseline row count we took back in phase 3? We pull that list out at the very end. The final recount comes in. 255 business contracts recorded at the start, and exactly 255 business contracts functioning at the end. Perfect. 0 data loss over a massive architectural gap. Let's quickly review the survival rules that made this possible. 1. Copy everything, touch nothing original. 2. Neutralize the database before you ever let it boot. 3. Count rows to know what you're actually carrying. Don't just blindly look at module names. 4. Port your custom code before that final hop to the new architecture. And 5, perhaps the most important rule of all, trust only the source code. The internet will lead you into silent traps. By following these rules, a 10-year-old database successfully leaped over 3 major software versions, and it now has another full decade of life ahead of it. So, as you look at your own legacy systems quietly running in the background, ask yourself, are you ready to trust the source code on your next migration climb? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you on the next ascent.